Hello, everyone. My name is Conrad on behalf of CameraStuff. Hope you're doing pleasantly well tonight. So, as always, welcome to In the Limelight, an episode where we jump into the local South African photographic and videographic industry, and we find some interesting people to chat to. So, tonight we're joined by professional portrait photographer and conceptual photographer Audrey Boniwell, and we're going to ask her a bunch of interesting questions. So, as per always, if you have any comments, any questions to ask, please do drop them in the comment section and we'll tackle them as we go along. All right, so I think without further ado, let's bring in our guest, shall we? Let's find the button. Hello, Audrey, how are you doing?
Hi, I'm well, thank you, and thanks for the invite. It's a pleasure.
It is a huge pleasure. Yeah, it's a pleasure from our side as well. We are very interested in your career. You're taking some incredible photos, and we have a bunch of questions to ask, which will be of interest to me personally as well and the audience out there. So first question I want to ask is, do you have any friends and family watching?
Yes, I do. I have my partner Ellen probably watching, I hope, and my sister, and probably a bunch of cousins as well.
Wonderful. Yeah, I hope Ellen is watching. So hello, Ellen. Hope you're doing well as well. So I think just to warm people up, I'm just going to show everybody some of the photos that you have been taking of late. So this taken by Audrey. And by all means, the Instagram link is provided in the comment section or the description. So do follow our guest. Yeah, but this is the work that Audrey is capable of. So as mentioned, delving into the world of portrait, people photography. And I have a host of interesting questions to ask, but not just me, anybody out there in YouTube and Facebook land. If you have any questions to ask, please do drop them in the comment section. So I'm going to put these away for the time being. I'm just going to pull up the chat. All right, so everybody out there, you are going to be visible on a screen here. So we already have comments from Leanne, my sister. Hello, Karen. Yes, her sister's here. Angelia, sorry. Also heart emoticon, and Claudia as well. Woohoo, Audrey. So a bunch of people joining already. Thank you for everybody out there watching. Just as a reminder, if you have any comments or questions, please do keep the chat alive. Let's have a bit of a conversation going, shall we? So, first question, as per always, how did you get into the world of photography? What propelled you into the creative world? What got things going?
I've always had a passion for art, and photography to me is very close to it. I picked up a camera when I was young and used to take snaps of the family, brothers and sisters. Wasn't very good at it. In 2008, I bought my first DSLR. I think it was 1000D. Loved it. And from there, I started doing open days through Invite. I think that was about 2010. And I carried on doing it as a hobby until 2018, where I gave up the corporate world after 15 years in office. And I started my own company and went professional.
So that is interesting. So going from part-time photographer to full-time photographer, what was that shift like, and what challenges did you face immediately, and how did you overcome those challenges?
The biggest challenge I had was not feeling like I was as good as everybody else. I felt like my work was not up to par. When I was a part-time photographer and just having fun, I used to think I was just the bee's knees. Till people started paying me for my photography, and then every time I saw an image, I'd be like, no, I'm not happy with this. And I'd often over-edit. That was a big problem in the beginning, was over-editing. Learning to cut back was one of the biggest things for me, and knowing what is just enough. Business-wise was building my clientele. Word of mouth is, I don't really advertise. Most of my clients come from word of mouth, and a lot of them are corporate. So I do a lot of headshots, and I must admit I'm quite happy with the amount I get in through word of mouth, and it is a compliment, I think, as well, because I feel that they must have found something nice in order to refer me to a friend. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a good space to be in, to have people not only complimenting your work, but passing it on to a variety of other clients as well. And that is the number one way to advertise. So you always have these tips and tricks and other methods of advertising, but word of mouth is still king. It's still on top there. So if you're providing good work and providing the client with an all-round experience, good experience, that is something that sells itself, and it is something that all photographers need to be mindful of, is to make sure that you give your clients the all-round experience so that they recommend you to somebody else. And that is just something that, well, one can call it a rolling snowball effect. So absolutely, it's a good space to be in. As far as the imposter syndrome is concerned, you have nothing to worry about. You are absolutely amazing at what you do. We'll talk about your photos in a wee bit, but you are incredibly talented and nothing to be worried or ashamed of whatsoever.
Thank you. I find a bad review is one of the worst things you can have, so I strive not to get those.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's 100% true. Yeah. So when it comes to testimonials, that's the thing that sells itself. And it's a good way to advertise yourself. So if you are out there getting into the world of photography, testimonials is something that you need to put front and center, and you need to gather that from all of your clients. So even if they don't drop a testimonial, have a method, have some approach to your clients and ask them for testimonials, because this is something, as I said, that will just sell itself, and it will sell your brand. It will sell you as a photographer. So testimonials, absolutely key. Yeah. So you are in the world of people photography.
That's correct.
So when it comes to people, how do you make people feel comfortable in front of the lens, especially as far as quote unquote non-professional models are concerned? So just the non-model type person, clientele, how do you make them feel comfortable in front of the lens?
Talking to them. Mostly it's getting to know you, whoever is in your studio, whether it's a model or a client. Find out a bit more about the person, have a conversation with them, and that already relaxes them, because you showing interest and you are finding out what makes them tick at the same time. So if you show interest in a person, already a person's going to feel comfortable and think that you are interested in them, which makes sense. I mean, like, if somebody's having a good conversation with me, I feel relaxed.
Yeah, that's true, 100%. Just having a conversation, that already is helpful just to begin with. I think it is something some photographers do. They kind of hide behind the camera and be quiet, not giving directions whatsoever. And I've experienced being a model once or twice, kind of against my own will, but it is incredibly intimidating. Oh, sorry?
You can come on the side. That's fine. Sorry, I spoke over you there. It's also, I feel yes. I am confident once I have my camera in my hand. So I think a lot of that comes across to my client or to the model, that I know what I'm doing and I'm not going to let them down at the end of the day. Yes. How I feel before the shoot is a different matter. I'm nervous before every single photo shoot. It doesn't go away.
I think you need to be a little bit nervous before a photo shoot. I like to say that a bit of nerves ahead of anything means that you're on the right track. A lackadaisical, lazy approach means that you're probably not thinking about things as much as what you should. So being mindful of what can transpire and what should happen on a day, that's just part of the process. So a bit of nerves, I know it's not always pleasant, but as I like to say, the nerves means that you're on the right track.
Well, then I'm really on the right track. And I feel it also means you care. And once you care at anything you do, it's good. Yeah.
That's a very good point. So I'm going to put that on a t-shirt. A bit of nerves means that you care. I like that.
Awesome. Can't wait to see the shirt.
Yeah, I always like to give my interview people some idea as far as branding is concerned. So maybe you can have that as your own. Audrey Boniwell, a bit of nerves means that I care.
Awesome.
All right, so part of the photo shoot, obviously the pre-planning is very important. So how do you take an idea that's in here? How do you conceptualize it? And how do you make sure that everybody on board is on the same page?
Firstly, getting the idea is the big thing. And like anything can spur. That's something from looking at an outfit to a venue. It normally starts like that with me. Then I think about who I want to do the shoot with. And then I will find models that will suit it. And then I'll sit with them and we'll discuss looks, makeup, location, basically also making sure you have the right people that they're going to pitch up. It's a big thing. And the right location. And then as well, I like using mood boards, like using Pinterest references of dresses, and I love anything that has tulle. Anything that has tulle is good for me. But sometimes the idea doesn't come from me. Sometimes it's a model that has an idea of what they'd like to shoot. And I love doing concepts. So a model will come to me and say, "Oh, can we shoot this?" And I'm like, "No problem. Let's see what we can do." And then we'll start putting together what it is we need for the shoot. And it usually starts with a little idea, either from my side or their side. And I'm fussy. I'm very fussy. So, so if something is not right, it doesn't look right, if I have an idea, I need to make sure that the lighting is exactly how I picture it, the venue is how I picture it, and the model's makeup and attire, dresses are exactly how I picture it. And that's a big thing for me, because if it's not, then I'm never going to be happy with that image.
That's certainly not a bad thing. That's not a bad thing, having the attention to detail. It's one of the cornerstones to establishing vision and inspiration going forward. So, yeah, attention to detail, very important as far as a creative person is concerned. So it's certainly not a bad thing whatsoever.
Also working with the right person, I think, and right model. Once you have that right model, I think comes together.
Yeah, I think empathy and communication and relationships, very important in the world of creativity. And so what you mentioned there, working with the right people, people who are on the same quote unquote wavelength as what you are, who have similar ideas, similar motivations, similar inspirations, similar vibes, quote unquote. I know that's a bit of a Gen Z thing to say, having the right vibes, but it is where the magic happens, is when you have a good relationship with the person who you're taking photos of. So it becomes a bit of a two-way street. It becomes communication, and that's where the magic happens. So that's very important when it comes to people photography, because from that you get genuine, authentic expressions and photos. If it's not authentic, if it looks a bit fake, if you're not on the same page, that's very visible to the audience. People will see that from a mile away.
Yes. And being a little bit nutty also helps sometimes.
Nutty is good, yeah. Nutty always breaks the ice beforehand, and I can't take things too seriously. Like, there's a lot of serious things happening in the world. Like, a photo shoot is not the time to have that intimidating vibe going on whatsoever. So from a photographer's point of view, you need to bring the nuttiness and the craziness. You need to be the party animal on a day, and it brings out the best in people as well.
Definitely. Yes.
So you started with 1000D, if I stand corrected. What do you have now in terms of camera, lenses, and lighting? So what is in a camera bag?
In my camera bag is my 6D, Canon 6D, my R6, a 24-105, a 70-200, a 50mm, and a 90mm, which needs repairs. Oh, and yes, a whole lot of batteries, because I find the R6 uses batteries like nobody's business. That's camera.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the thing about mirrorless cameras, which I do have a question about. But yeah, they do drain batteries, quite power hungry, the mirrorless cameras. What was your experience like shifting from classic DSLR to mirrorless camera?
I was a nervous wreck. I mean, going to my client, I looked like a total newbie because I didn't know how my settings work, because everything is like a little bit different.
Yeah, inside and out and back and forth.
And I said to them, I really do know what I'm doing. I'm sorry, I just changed cameras. So once I got the hang of that, I like the mirrorless, but my 6D is still my favorite camera. Every now and again, I'll pinch Allen's, which is the 5D, but the daddy, I call it. But I like my 6D. I must admit, I really like my 6D. I will get used to the R6. I just feel that the colors to me are a little bit muted. I don't know why. It's just my opinion, and I'm probably going to get hounded for that. But I find that my 60 seems a bit richer in color when I have it in my normal mode, which I shoot in, which is set to either portrait or neutral.
Yeah, it's very difficult letting go of the camera that spent a lot of time with you. In your case, that being the 60. It's something that a lot of photographers have said. A lot of sentimental value when it comes to that camera that made a difference in your life, and very often they keep it as a trophy, or they continue using it despite the advancing technology that may be available out there. So the camera becomes an extension of yourself, and getting used to the settings, where the buttons are, etc., just becomes a part of your body, and it's very difficult giving that up.
Well,
yeah, so that
explains a lot because I'm an oldie. I like the oldies. Definitely, I think I'm attached to my 60. I have attachment issues. I don't like change. So that's a big change for me. But I must admit, I love having the dual card, so that I have a backup, because that always petrified me. I was always shooting with 2 cameras just in case I lost on my 60. But with the R6, the fact that it has 2 card slots is fantastic for me. It makes my day.
Yeah, I love the fact that your camera has a name as well. You call it Daddy. So my camera is called Penny, and so that just ties into the entire sentimentality thing that I mentioned.
I call Alan the Big Daddy because I suppose the 1D like this, it's a 5D. It's very heavy. And I find that it's because he has the battery pack and everything, I find it very bulky to use. But then I also find that I'm sturdier when I'm taking the images if I have a battery pack on. Yeah, so
the battery pack does help a lot, especially when shooting in a portrait orientation. As far as hand grip and orientation are concerned, it's just a lot more comfortable to hold, and it stabilizes you, as you said. The battery pack can be very useful. All right, so I hope you're reading the comments.
I'm not. I can't see that far.
Oh gosh, okay. Well, I'll read it out loud for you. So we have Lene saying hi. Hello, Lene. Thank you for joining.
Hi.
Angelia, best photographer I know. Thank you for commenting. Claudia, one of my favorite photographers. You are so talented. So all of the compliments streaming in. Beautiful wall photographer. Hello to you too, sir. What this person is? What's his name? Alan. Hello, Alan. Now I'm being sarcastic here. Hello, Alan. How are you doing? Thank you for joining. And a regular Andrew waves, hiding away in the comments. Thank you for always joining, Andrew. We do appreciate it so much. Lene, it's fun to see how photographers interact with the models. Then there is a connection and everything becomes more comfortable, 100%. Adrian, my sister is a great photographer. I love that. And I think when we spoke about being goofy...
Sorry.
No, it's all true. And Andrew's saying, I think this was a reference to how we talked about being goofy and silly in front of our clients. Just pop on the unicorn shirt and flip-flops and let's go. I think that's a good approach. That is the Andrew uniform, and I love it. Well done, Andrew.
Awesome.
All right, so back to my questions. Can you remember a memorable experience that you had during your career where you thought to yourself, okay, I've made it. This is something that I want to do forever. So any moment that really stood out to you where you thought, okay, I love being a photographer?
I think people, I can't actually pinpoint one exact time. I think possibly when I took the clown images of Alan, I think I thought I can do this. This is something that I can do, and something that I can be good at. I love those images still to today. They're some of my favorite images. Otherwise, being paid for my first photos, I suppose. That was always a good thing. It told me I can do this. And liking my images, starting to like my images, I think is a big thing, because no matter if I say I don't feel like I'm good enough, sometimes you get that one image that you absolutely love.
Yes.
And I think those moments would be the times that I think I'm happy I'm a photographer, and I could do this for the rest of my life. I definitely could. Seeing how people react in front of the camera, seeing their faces, especially print. When you give somebody a print, there's no better expression on their face when they see themselves in print, and especially when it's a good image. I think that makes me happy to be a photographer, definitely. And I know it's something I want to do forever. You're stuck with me.
You're one step ahead of me. Yeah, you're one step ahead of me. I was about to ask about prints because I see a lovely photo there behind you, and it is always a great quote-unquote trophy, something to remember, like having all of these things around you in your office or in your room or in your house. Printing, I think, is something that may have gone slightly out of fashion, but I think it's still incredibly important, even if you do it for yourself. By printing your work and having it around your house or your office, these are just little reminders as to how you progress and how you advanced, and also a callback to some excellent photos that you have taken in the past. So on point here, also a comment, Karen saying, and when you took that pic behind you, do you want to talk about that photo behind you? My absolute favorite.
That is Rosie. Rosie made that outfit by hand. Most of it is metal, a little bit uncomfortable for her, but she made it. And her and I had an idea of the lighting and that we wanted for this, and I made her step out of her comfort zone a little bit and give me a nice forward pose there, and I think she nailed it. I absolutely think she nailed it. One of my favorites. That's why it's in the house. Yes. And when you print, you see the vibrancy of the colors and what you've achieved, and it's a good, satisfying feeling when you see something in print. Yeah, but she did very well. Rosie did really well with that image, I must admit. Me too, but Rosie, she nailed it.
Absolutely. Speaking of outfits, if you don't mind me pulling up one of these photos that you took.
Okay.
So let me just find it. So this is something that you do as well, making outfits. So this was part of your Bridgerton series. I may be a bit partial here because that's my niece there in the blue, but these are amazing photos. So talk us through the entire experience here and also the making of the outfits.
Originally, I shot at that venue. Shot a 50th birthday and a 21st at that venue. And I fell in love with it. And I knew right then I wanted to do a Victorian shoot. At the time, I was thinking ball gown, but I was keen for Bridgerton, and a friend of mine said that she would like to shoot it. So I started the first dress there, and she didn't have time to do the shoot. So I thought, oh, well, after waiting for a couple of months, I started making the rest of the dresses to that style. And then I decided I'm doing the shoot on my own, and well, not on my own, with the models as well, and with Alan's help. And so I made the balance of the dresses. I actually started sewing lessons so that I can make my own outfits for photo shoots, because you don't really find what it is you want to. Sometimes you can't find what you want to shoot. So knowing how. Pardon?
This is where the fussiness steps in. I can fully empathize and agree with that. You know, wanting the outfits and the props and everything, you can't quite find what you're exactly looking for, so you end up making it yourself, which I think is a good process. It's a good thing, being multidisciplinary. So not just photography, but keeping your hands busy with other things as well and tying it all together. So when it comes to making dresses or props or creating scenes around you, etc., you know, it's a good practice as far as photography is concerned.
A lot about the Bridgerton shoot was, I know Taylor and Morgan, they were the OG models that I wanted for the shoot. The other two joined later, Megan and Joanne. But those dresses were tailored for Morgan's dress was tailored for her, because I know she's nice and tall. And you think about the colors and what will suit them. We also did the eats, which went nice treats there, some scones and stuff. And flowers, and we did the deco as well, but the venue was lovely for it as well. And while we were shooting, Ellen was shooting individuals, and I was planning on shooting the group alone, and only shooting the group. I'm a little bit jealous because now I see individual photos, and I was sorry that I invited him. I didn't say that. I wanted all mine. But yeah, that's it.
So I think
love
that's something worthwhile bringing up. So Alan is also a photographer, in case people out there don't know. So the two of you in combination, being in a relationship, both being photographers, what's that like? Like, are you in competition with one another, or do you bounce ideas off one another? Do you help one another? What's it like being in a relationship with two photographers?
Basically, sometimes it's hard because he says he doesn't compete. He's lying. He competes. And I'm extremely competitive. So we compete. We definitely compete. And when it comes to lighting, sometimes, as you know, Ellen is superb with lighting. I will pull him into studio and we will have a full-on argument on how I want the lighting done. Well, not too fierce, but I'm very fussy and I want it done a certain way, and he'll come and assist me and he wants to do it his way. And I'm like, no. As you see in those gel images, the orange ones that you had up, he said, do it in Photoshop. And I said, no, I want to do it in camera. So those gels and all that glitz behind was all done. It was shot as Whereas he said, no, just edit and post. I'm like, not going to happen. That one, yes.
Well, I think it's good to be quite competitive. I think it is quite good to be slightly competitive with one another, at least if it's done in good spirit and in good health and good faith to one another, obviously in support of one another. But keeping each other on each other's toes I think it's a good thing.
I'm actually sorry he's not here this evening, because he deserves so much credit when it comes to my photography. He was definitely a big part of me advancing in photography and in lighting. He has taught me so much with lighting. He really needs to be commended for how much he's been patient, how patient he's been with me, because I'm really impatient. And he just deals with me. I don't know how, but yeah, he has been the best mentor out.
Well, thank you, Alan. Maybe we can put you in our pipeline for a next interview as well. So if you're still watching, give us a yes or no if you'd like to be featured in the Limelight here as well. But we'll get to that in due time. All right. So I want to talk a bit more about people photography. So let me just take this away. All right, so portrait photography is about the essence of the person. So how do you go about making sure that you capture that precisely? Instead of doing something that's fake and inauthentic, how do you make sure that the person is conveying their true sense in front of the camera?
Well, firstly, by them being relaxed, automatically starts giving their true self to you. If a person's relaxed, you're going to get those expressions that you want. While you're talking to them, you got the expressions coming through their eyes. You talk about a partner, for instance, in their life, or their children, and automatically children bring smiles to people's faces, making them and compliment them and tell them how good they look in front of the camera. If you are in a bad mood and you portray it to your client's never going to feel comfortable. You're never going to get a good photo. So you got to leave that at the door when it comes to your client or your model, and compliment them. Tell them they've got nice eyes. Tell them their hair looks good. Make sure that they authentic and true compliments, and not just complimenting for the sake of it. Also knowing how to pose, and keeping talking as well makes them relax. Playing some music also makes them relax, and you get those true images. Sometimes depends on what emotion you're going for. You sometimes talk about things that bring out those emotions. Like sometimes it can be something that's a little bit more serious, and you want that serious look. In an image I took of my niece, I wanted her to give me an aggressive look, and she's such a sweet little thing. She wasn't going to give me aggression, so I made her really angry. I got a perfect image. Yeah.
No, that's absolutely true. Yeah, so to put people in the right headspace. Now, if they need to convey a certain type of emotion, they need to be in the right headspace. So asking a person to smile or frown or to be angry, whatever it may be. You know, just to pull that emotion out of the hat doesn't really work for a lot of people. So you kind of need to paint the scene, create a memory, or ask a person to tap into a memory, play the right type of music. Obviously, mimicry here is important as well. So whatever emotion you want, you need to play the part as well. So people do tend to mirror what the photographer is doing. So if
These
you want
facial
goofy vibes, you
expressions,
need to
they
be a
work.
goofy.
Sorry.
Oh, sorry?
I said these facial expressions work very well. Sorry.
Yeah, it's a very
Carry
good
on.
point, Job. So whatever you want, you need to do as well. So people do mirror other people incredibly well. So whatever mood you want, you have to act the part as well. So that is something, it is a learned process. Not every one of us is an extrovert, but it is part and parcel of what being a people photographer is about. Empathy is a big word here, and whatever you want from the client, you need to be prepared to do as well.
It's also a matter of keeping, like, I find a lot of the time, especially with teens, and you've got a teen in a studio and their mom comes with, it's ideally suited that the mom sits in the garden on the bench while you're taking photos of the teen. Let her be around for that safety part, but a teen is always going to be on edge if her mom's in the studio, or if his mom's in the studio. So, I mean, any person, I suppose, if you got your partner or if you got your husband or wife, then you try and take photos. Somebody watching you is that added pressure, and you also want them to be relaxed. So send them out the room for a little while, close enough to be so they feel safe, but for the person in front of the camera to be able to relax is also how you get those good images.
I think this is a very good talking point. You know, I do try my best to tell my models to bring a chaperone. You're more than welcome to bring people along, you know, just for the sake of safety and obviously having helping hands on it as well. But I do tend to tell the models, like, who are you comfortable having in a studio with you? Like, who do you consider a cheerleader, somebody who can motivate you on a day? Having boyfriend or hubby along may not be the best person, because they'll tap her watch the whole time saying that the Springboks are playing in 10 minutes. And so people do tend to get a little bit impatient. So you need to be mindful with who you bring to the studio with you. And that's a question I always ask the model beforehand. So yes, safety, obviously, bring people along, but the type of person that you want in the studio with you, who can act as a cheerleader, who can help out in terms of, you know, fixing the hair or fixing the wardrobe. You know, I obviously, from my point of view, don't have a touch rule whatsoever. So obviously don't touch the model whatsoever. So having the person there that can do the adjustments as well, you know, that's also important.
So even as a female, I always ask before I adjust anything on a model. Like, generally, I will take a piece of hair out of the eye. If it's going straight through there, I'll come and take. But I always ask first, can I move this? And I'm a female, and I find that I will still ask. Doesn't matter whether you're male or female. It's, you still have to ask. You don't touch models.
100%. So how do you go about whenever a person feels unhappy about a photo? So if they consider a photo to be unflattering, or they may have one or two complaints about the photo, how do you go about dealing with that?
If I can't fix it, then I will reshoot. But majority of the time, while I'm shooting, if a person is comfortable and they see themselves on camera, I will show them a few shots that I'm taking while I'm taking it. Not too much, because you don't want them to see the unedited version if there's a breakout or something on their faces, but enough to make them feel confident. Then you don't tend to have those issues afterwards. I also send out contact sheets so that my clients can select their own images from the contact sheets. That way they only choose, I tell them straight, if you only like one of those images, I'm happy if you only choose that one image. If there are 40 images and you like all 40, then cull them to your favorite 5. You don't need to pick every single image that you like. And so majority of the time, they'll always find 1 or 2 images that they really, really like. Well, most cases more than that, but you have to make sure that they really like those photos. You won't have issues like that. If there is, I will offer to reshoot. And I think if that doesn't fix it, then move them on to another photographer, because then you're not gelling together. Sorry. That was probably the right thing earlier.
We spoke about that earlier, the all-round experience that you need to provide to your clients. So maybe on the day the shoot was fantastic, maybe some of the results were fantastic, maybe you got the edits out in time, etc. But there's also aftercare service. When a person is not
Yeah.
happy with one or two results, you have to provide and accommodate and make the client happy. Because if you have one thing that kind of spoils everything, it will spoil everything. So
It does.
if you want those good testimonials, if you want the good word of mouth, if you want to spread the love in terms of acquiring more clients, the all-round experience is important. So
It
if a
is.
client is not happy with something, you need to make accommodations.
You need to do your utmost to make a client happy. But at the end of the day, you cannot please everybody. Some people are not made to well, you're not everybody's photographer. You'll always have that one person that you don't gel off, but usually you get that vibe beforehand, before you shoot. It doesn't usually happen while you're shooting. So yes, I will do my utmost to make sure that my client is happy.
That's very important what you said, establishing realistic expectations going forward and giving yourself an opportunity to quote unquote gel with the person beforehand. So if you find something is off or the client made something off about you, you can establish that beforehand. So you don't want to wait until the photo shoot or after the photo shoot to have your disagreements, or maybe something happened that wasn't supposed to happen on a day, whatever it may have been. You want to establish the expectations beforehand and make sure that everybody's on the same page and give yourself an opportunity to build that rapport with the client. And I think that's very important.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
All right. So if I may ask, what do you have planned for the next year, the next 2 years, next 3 years? What's in the pipeline as far as Audrey Boniwell photography is concerned?
Making more outfits. I'm just made a lovely maternity dress and that I'm wanting to shoot. I love anything that's tulle and glitters is even better. I have a number of shoots that I have in mind there. I'm also wanting to concentrate a lot more as well. Concentrate a lot more on my headshot photography. I have a lot of corporate clients, but I would like to grow my corporate side as well. That's
so something we touched a little bit on, posing. Do you have any tips and tricks out there to the audience when it comes to posing? Because it is something a lot of photographers do struggle with. So I asked myself this very same question: why do I still suck at posing? And it's because I think I never gave myself opportunities to research and study this topic. So when it comes to posing, this is a learned skill, a thing that you need to acquire over time as well. You need to be mindful at improving with every photo shoot. So I don't know if you have any things to add to that. Like, what general tips and tricks do you have when it comes to posing?
I was given a few tutorials from Ellen, from Mary Dupree, which was my original, how can you say, what I fell back on in the beginning is her poses. But not everybody is suitable for a pose. You have to work with the body that the person has. So me being a fuller person, I know how to pose. So I'm going to pose my client if she's a little bit fuller or if he's a little bit fuller, very much the same as how I would pose, and I would show them the pose that I would like them to do. It's also knowing what angles are best on your client, what features stand out, using your hands. Basically, you need to research posing, but you also need to be able to do it yourself. If you can pull off the pose, your client can pull off the pose, and you can't show a client how to do the pose unless you know that how to pose. So yeah. Basically knowing what looks good for your client. And if your client goes home and they don't tell you they saw the next day, you haven't posed them properly.
I like that, yeah. So sore body the next day is always an indication of a successful photo shoot.
That is correct.
So when it comes to faces, portraits, what posing tips do you have there? Because this is a challenge in itself, posing the face and the hands when it comes to portrait photography. So I have a couple. Be wary of foreshortening. So you don't want the hands to be in front of the face because you're going to create big hands as opposed to a small face. So foreshortening, being careful where you place the hands. Obviously, the hands shouldn't attract, quote unquote, a lot of the light. So all of the light should be on the face where the hands are kind of behind the face. And also eyes, very important. You don't want too many whites in the eyes, so you want to see the iris within the
Yes.
portraits as well. So that's just a couple from my side. I don't know if you have anything to add to that.
Ballet hands is one of mine. Knowing how to use soft hands, so ballet hands. Knowing where to position your hands on your face so that you're not taking attention. Say, for instance, putting your hand like this is going to take attention to your eyes. Say something like this on your nose, immediately somebody's going to be looking at your nose, which you don't want to do with mine, or a larger nose. Something like this is bringing attention to the mouth. Now, that is okay if you want attention to those areas. But a young 5-6-year-old in your studio coming to do a hand pose, you're not going to want to put a hand near her mouth, for instance. You want something more coy or more, in some cases, you want to make that child stand out, and then you'll give something fierce. And something with the hands that is not, you don't want to bring attention to certain areas of the face. Only if you're wanting to do something for eyes, something for lips. That's my rule. And not looking too far to the side as well with the white of the eyes is a big thing for me. And not staring into the light all the time. I really get irritated. But I don't show it. But I do. I get irritated when somebody's looking into the light the whole time. Focus on my lens. That's where I want you to look, unless I tell you to look sideways. Sorry, control.
Well, you just demonstrated something. You just demonstrated something that's absolutely necessary. You're able to do the poses yourself. So hands here,
I didn't do it too
hands
well.
not here, hands here. So that's important to do with the client in front of you as well. So as I said a little bit earlier, people do tend to mirror better as opposed to hearing verbal commands. So if you can show a person what to do as opposed to telling them, it works a lot better. Yeah. So being capable of doing the process yourself and standing there, even if you feel a little bit foolish, but it is necessary for you to do it yourself, and people will click immediately what they need to do.
What we've also done in the studio is we've put a mirror behind where we usually stand, so that the model who's facing us can see the pose that they're doing in the mirror behind us. So that also helps. Yeah.
All right. So everybody watching out there, we still have a nice crowd going. So if you have any questions to ask yourself, now is your opportunity to do so, because I think we are about 10 minutes away from finishing up. I have a couple of questions left myself. But yeah, if you are out there still watching, do drop your questions. Now is your opportunity to do so. What do you do when you find yourself in a creative block? Like if you have writer's block, whatever you want to term it, when you lack inspiration, what is the next step from there? What do you tell yourself? Do you give yourself a break or not? What is the Audrey recommendation to people out there who may lack inspiration?
If I don't have bookings if I have a quiet period, say for instance a weekend, and I'm having a creative block, I'll put my camera down and grab a good movie, and I'll watch a movie, put my mind off what I'm trying to achieve, because you're not going to achieve it if you've got a block. There's no ways you'll get it. So rather put your camera down, and I have done that before. I've taken a break, and it is amazing how many ideas and how many things you see when you're not looking for things. Horror movies are a great source for me. I love anything horror. So bring on the horror, and I'll get plenty of ideas alone from that.
Horror is such a fascinating genre because typically they break the rules as far as conventional, lighting and other things are concerned as well. So you have an opportunity to see things done upside down, quote unquote, inside and out, and it does inspire, it does invigorate new ideas as well. So horror movies, I agree with you 100%. It's always fascinating to watch because you kind of see things differently the whole time because they go out of the way to break the rules. And as I said, it's always fascinating to see these things unfold and knowing how to incorporate that into your own work. So my last question is, and it's always my last question, what advice would you give aspiring new photographers out there?
Don't think you're the bee's knees. Always be open to learning. Be confident in what you do, and if you really want to do it, you're going to do it. Where you will get to it. You will find yourself a mentor. Sorry, I'm just falling over my words here. Find a mentor. That's one of the biggest things, I think. Find a mentor. Somebody whose work inspires you. And ask them. You never know. They might have time to give you some lessons. And I find most photographers are good that way, that they're always open to teaching somebody. So as a new photographer, I always welcome somebody who's willing to learn. And don't concentrate so much on your gear. Don't go for those expensive lenses yet. Go for a camera that's easy to use and a comfortable lens, and then work with that until you know exactly what it is you need. I made a lot of mistake buying expensive gear in the beginning that I didn't need.
100%. Thank you for that closing advice. It was wonderful having you for this chat. I learned a lot, and I'm certain everybody watching learned a lot as well. Please do continue to inspire and creating these awesome images to everybody watching out there. Let me just quickly find your links here. But in the meantime, I don't know if you have any shout outs, maybe people that you want to thank for your personal journey.
Yes, Ellen, of course. Nolan, Christopher Lorenz, Nolan Lister, Alan Riedel, Sven Slavitt. All of them have been inspiring for me. Jerry, yourself, Conrad, your gel work is amazing. And my sister, of course, my biggest supporter.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. So as you may have noticed, everybody, the link is there provided. So please do follow our guest. So
and my clients.
For myself, Conrad, on behalf of CameraStuff, thank you so much for joining, Audrey. Thank you so much for everybody out there watching. So you know the drill, like and subscribe and whatnot. This video will be available on YouTube afterwards. So if you have missed parts of it, you can catch up afterwards. But yeah, that's it from my side. So again, thank you so much for tuning in. I bid you adieu and have a pleasant night further. Again, thank you for Audrey. To everybody out there, stay creative, love and light. Peace out.